Hey everybody, it's TJ. Welcome to Smash Ultimate Countdown, the show where we count down the days to the release of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate for Nintendo Switch on December 7th. Today we've got some character profiles to look at, a couple new stages, and a sweet throwback tune. Let's get right into it. First on the docket is everybody's favorite Super Smash Bros. Character, Mii! Well, Mii Fighter. Actually, I'm being facetious. I understand that the Mii Fighter is actually not that popular of a character, which I personally consider to be very unfortunate. The customizability and direct personal impact on the gaming experience is what makes the Mii Fighter so much fun. And there's some very promising changes this time around. The first one I want to call your attention to is the adjustment of the proportions. That was actually one of the things that I guess I was the least satisfied with in the Wii U version, is I felt like their heads were a little bit over exaggerated. I was okay with it because that's the style of the Mii's, but they didn't really seem like they were in proportion to the rest of the characters. The heads are a little bit smaller and so in better proportion relative to the rest of the body. Apparently their special moves have been enhanced, although enhanced is a very subjective term, so I don't really know exactly what that means. Now, the language that they use to describe the special moves has people a little bit confused. Everybody's clear on the fact that there are three different types of Mii Fighters. We've got our Brawler, our Sword Fighter, and of course the Gunner. In the Wii U version, where they were first introduced, the special moves are completely customizable in the sense that there's really no standard move. There are default moves, but you have your, of course, just like every other character, your neutral special, side special, down special, and up special, and within each one of those you have three different moves that you can select from. So there's a lot of different combinations that you can have, so it's unlikely that any two Mii Fighters are identical. And then when you compound that with the fact that the size and scale of the Mii Fighters changes their weight and how fast they move and how heavy they hit, it even makes them more diverse. The part that I think is less than clear is where it says you can choose from a set of 3 specials for each type. Now, some people are interpreting this to mean that there are 3 different sets of moves and you can choose one of those 3 options. My personal interpretation was that it's the same as it was for the Wii U, where each special move, up special, down special, side special, neutral special, have 3 different options to choose from. I automatically assumed that because that's what it already is. Now, a lot of people are not that well versed in the Mii Fighters and they don't spend a lot of time using them. Some people have even gone so far as to delete all of the Mii Fighters from their game, because then it gives you a much more attractive looking character selection screen on the Wii U version of the game once it removes that little Mii Fighter icon as an option. I would never do that because the Mii Fighters are my favorite characters to use. Now, I've seen no evidence to suggest that the way that the Mii Fighter custom moves are going to be implemented is any different than what's come before. Of course, I could be wrong. So let me put this out to you guys, my player pals out there in the gaming community. What do you think? Are they making groupings of moves? They have 3 pre-assigned sets that you can choose from, or is it exactly how it was with the Wii U version, where each special move just has 3 different options of how you can assemble it? One of the other notable changes is Mii Fighters now feature a voice option. You can choose from 12 different voices. We get a tiny little sample of this in the E3 teaser trailer, where there's a few little grunting sounds that you can hear. They're like, huh, ah, ooh. Not terribly dissimilar to what I do with Hero TJ and Dark TJ for the ADR of Mii v Mii. That might save me a little bit of time. I think this is pretty cool. I actually was very impressed with the way they were able to energize the Mii Fighters and assign really compelling sound effects to them, so you didn't really notice the fact that they were completely silent characters. It does make it harder to maintain the suspension of disbelief when you have a character that you're pretending to be yourself, or if you've made another character based on a celebrity or a family member and it doesn't sound like them. Maybe it's a less satisfying experience than them not sounding like anything at all. I do imagine you can probably deactivate any kind of voice option if you wanted to. I'm assuming that's probably one of the 12 options. But I think this is a cool little enhancement. Sound does tend to bolster the experience. It intensifies the action, makes the fight a little bit more immersive, so I'm glad the Mii's get to participate in some of that. I'm not really sure what way I'm gonna go with that, because I've been spending so much time creating the ADR for my own characters in the post-production process that I wonder what it will be like for me to hear them making the sounds while they're fighting. Of course, they're not my personal sounds, they're all pre-recorded. To my knowledge, there is no way that you're going to be able to record any sounds for your own Mii Fighter, although that would be amazing. You can see almost immediately why that would not happen, because people make inappropriate sounds and apply words to the game that maybe they would say in real life but would not be, let's say, consistent with the Nintendo brand. Those are the kinds of things that Nintendo needs to balance, which takes us to the next cool little addition to the Mii Fighters. Now, they haven't said anything definitive about this, but they made the strong implication that they're trying to prepare the Mii Fighters in such a way that will make them compatible with online play. That has not been a feature in the past. Of course, you could before in some capacity. In the tournaments, you could select whether or not to allow Miis to be in. I competed in a number of tournaments myself, hosted a few. That's how I want to play, and I think that's how people want to play against me. I'm instantly identifiable when I'm playing as one of them versus when I'm playing as Link or Little Mac or some of the other characters that I like. And who doesn't want to smack Dark TJ in the face? Now, one of the interesting things about the Mii Fighters this time around that I'm curious to see is there going to be some kind of in-game Mii Maker? Because on the Wii U, it worked very closely with the Mii Maker app as well as the 3DS. While you can, of course, make Miis on the Nintendo Switch, it doesn't function in the same way. You make your own Mii that relates to your profile, but what if you want to make a whole bunch of Miis that you don't want to have to assign to a profile on your Switch? So I'm imagining they have to have some sort of workaround for that, or they're going to release it simultaneously with some type of Mii Maker app. Either way, I'm really curious and really excited for that, whatever shape it takes. This is a little tangential, but I want to connect it to this conversation because a lot of other people have been discussing it. With the confusion surrounding the Mii Fighters Custom Moves, it raised the question of custom moves in general for all of the characters. You probably know, for the previous iteration of Smash Bros. On Wii U and 3DS, each character could unlock 3 alternate special moves. With the exception of the DLC characters, all of the DLC characters only have their one main move option, but all the other characters you could unlock up to 3 other moves, which I personally found to be tremendously enjoyable. Now, unlocking them was a nightmare because you could get all kinds of duplicates and there was no streamlined process to get them. You can't buy them from the shop. You can't accomplish a specific task to enable access to specific moves. It being completely random and there being hundreds of them made it very obnoxious. What I finally did to get all of them for myself was to use the Ganondorf turbo controller hack, where you tape down the A button on a turbo controller to where it's constantly like you're pressing A, and you put him in the target blast mode and he just keeps power punching that bomb. The bomb goes and explodes all this stuff and you unlock random prizes. I left for 3 days straight and that was how it enabled me to unlock the rest of them. That's ridiculous that it had to be done that way, but acquiring them aside, having them, I found, has dramatically enhanced my game experience. I don't know if you check out the other shows on this channel. One of the ones that I'm currently in the process of producing is Mii v Mii Season 3. Now in Season 3, Hero TJ and Dark TJ each individually train every single character in the game. So Mario, for example, he's got his standard fireball, but he can also do a really big fireball. I've trained all of these amiibo with a different style. Usually the hero side is a little bit more a stronger emphasis on speed and evasiveness and more of a defensive playing style, and the dark side uses explosive attacks, high risk, high reward. Maybe they move a little bit slower, but they hit a little bit harder. The playstyle's a little bit more aggressive, and the custom moves contribute dramatically to how I can shape the way that these amiibo play. Apparently that's just me. I can't believe how unfavorable the Smash playing community in general is towards these custom moves. So you, my people, my friends out there in the comments section, let me know what you think. Now, we all agree that acquiring the custom moves was complete garbage, but did you like having them? The fact that all of my Koopalings could potentially have a different combination of moves was important to me. Otherwise, all 7 Koopalings and Bowser Jr. are exactly the same without the custom moves. And Nintendo has not confirmed exactly how they're playing it yet, so it remains to be seen. But what are you hoping for? Do you think they should just ditch custom moves altogether? Or are you hoping they make a return for Smash Ultimate? I can't wait to read your thoughts. And the last thing I want to say about these Mii Fighters, sorry, I know I'm going on and on, it's my main. It's my main. When it came time to decide which type I wanted to be for the Wii U version, I was a little bit torn. If you've seen some of the other shows, you may have caught wind of the fact that I'm a professional sword fighter. I'm semi-retired now, but I've appeared in movies and television shows, done thousands of live performances. I still teach sword fighting, so I very naturally gravitate to the sword. But I'm also a competitive martial artist. I hold a 2nd degree black belt in karate and taekwondo. I compete in martial arts tournaments. I teach martial arts. I train almost every day of the week. So I have great respect for unarmed combat as well. So likewise, I have a very strong affinity to the brawler. Gunner, get out of here with that. I have no connection to that whatsoever. I'm really glad the Gunner is in the game. I think the Gunner is an excellent type. Nintendo chose 3 really awesome styles. The Gunner's just not for me. Now, if they gave him a bow and arrow, I might be a little bit more tempted. But for me, it was mostly deciding between brawler and sword fighter. I decided very early on there was going to be Hero TJ and Dark TJ. I thought maybe one of them could be a sword fighter and one of them can be a brawler, but then I kind of shied away from that idea, and I just went with my gut instinct and I went with the swords. But I have to admit, I enjoy playing as the brawler as well quite a bit, and now that a new Smash is coming out, I'm starting to feel that same pull, that tug of war on my heart between fighting with the sword and then fighting with my fists and feet. So I'm gonna put a little poll up on this episode. I'm just really curious to get your opinion out there. For those of you who care, when Smash Ultimate rolls around, do you think I should stick with the sword fighter or make the move to brawler? As always, I really appreciate your thoughts. You know I can wax poetic about the Mii Fighters for hours on end, so I really appreciate you indulging me. I'll leave it there, and let's take a look at the next item on the list. Here we've got the Great Plateau Tower from Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's a new stage introduced for the first time in Smash Ultimate. It's the first stage that I ever played in the game. I got to try this one out at E3. It's possible to destroy the top part of the tower. If you play on the stage long enough, it does eventually reconstruct itself. Our buddy the Old Man, who's probably the first NPC that you encounter in Breath of the Wild, does make a little bit of an appearance, so you can see him in the background there. I have to say that this stage really resonated with me. Now, maybe it has something to do with Legend of Zelda being my all-time favorite video game series. Maybe it has something to do with the 2,000 plus hours I put into my 3 complete playthroughs of Breath of the Wild on both Wii U and Nintendo Switch. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that I have a strong slant towards Legend of Zelda, and the more Legend of Zelda content they put into the game, the better. Maybe it has something to do with all those things, but I actually really think it's something much more primitive, much more basic about our human makeup. There are those certain things that connect with us for whatever reason, something we really enjoy. You hear a song that makes you feel a certain way, memories of a TV show or memories of a time in your life. This was the reaction that I had to this stage. Perhaps nostalgia is not the right word because the game is a little bit too recent for it to conjure up those types of feelings, but definitely something emotional. Legend of Zelda has always known how to play my heartstrings, and something about being on this stage, fighting with all of my favorite Nintendo characters, just felt good. It conjured up for me the kind of happiness that I have long connected with Nintendo. In fact, the feeling I had playing this stage is the reason why I'm a Nintendo fan. No other company, no other console, no other form of media resonates with me so deeply. I also realized that that's a very personal thing. So maybe that stage isn't as meaningful to you or as impactful to you. But because Smash Bros. Casts such a wide net, chances are there is a stage in the game that is going to impact you deeply if you're a big Nintendo fan. Let me know. Let me know the last time Nintendo made you feel something like that. Whether it's a game remake, the inclusion of a character in Smash Bros., the revival of an old stage, the introduction of a new one. Needless to say, I'm thrilled that it's in there. I'm glad Breath of the Wild is seeing a little bit of Smash Bros. Representation. I'm happy to say it's one I'm definitely going to treasure my time on. I think we can all agree one of the best things about Smash Bros. Is the eclectic collection of Nintendo music. This next deep cut is no exception. F-Zero! Yeah, that's right, they're going deep for this bad boy. It's an F-Zero medley that consists of at least Deathwind and Firefield, maybe more. They're a little vague on that point. The song is arranged and sung by Takanobu Mitsuyoshi. There's nothing quite like it. I definitely recommend you check it out. Head over to smashbrothers.com, click on the music panel. You can't miss it. Next up, we've got a returning stage, Peach's Castle, from back in the Melee days. We've got some cool colored switches that if you step on them, they can unlock some items. And you better keep your head on a swivel because Banzai Bill can come out at any moment and try to ruin your day. Next up, we've got a character profile for R.O.B, R.O.B, the robotic operating buddy. R.O.B made his Smash debut back in Brawl, and he was kind of the central piece of the Subspace Emissary. Now, not to spoil a Wii game for you, but most of the Subspace Emissary mission, you see this cloaked minister who is just some kind of mysterious figure, and then towards the end of the adventure, the robe is removed and we see that it's actually a R.O.B. Now, this may have had no impact on those of you who are somewhat new to the Nintendo games. I imagine I'm probably an older player than most of you out there, but R.O.B was ahead of my time. The first NES I ever had was the little gray brick, so I never actually saw a R.O.B. But we all owe a pretty great debt to the guy. Video games were falling out of fashion, and Nintendo had invested all this time in creating this video game console, and they didn't really have strong expectations that it would succeed in the North American market, so they disguised it as a toy. They disguised it as R.O.B, but really the central feature was playing the games. So R.O.B did have a couple titles. They were not especially memorable and not especially fun, but nonetheless, R.O.B got Nintendo into a lot of homes that might not have otherwise given it a chance, and it really allowed the Nintendo to catch on, and then they could kind of shed the R.O.B skin and it could exist as what it was, which was an amazing console. So R.O.B kind of got left in the dust until Brawl, where he got to make it in as a retro character. So for those people who were aware of R.O.B and knew of his history, that could have been a pretty powerful moment, a pretty surprising reveal. Otherwise it's just like, wow, there's Wally. Another unique thing about R.O.B is that he has a different version in Japan and North America. In North America, when he originally released, he was like 2 different shades of gray, like a light gray and a darker gray, and when he released in Japan, it was a little bit of a creamy off-white, and then a red trending slightly towards maroon. And so naturally in Japan, Smash Bros. Features the red and white R.O.B as the player 1 and the gray one is an alternate, whereas in the US, the player 1 R.O.B is the gray one that was released here and the red and white is the alternate. And even though we don't really talk about it a lot and we don't think about it this way, R.O.B is one of the only other amiibo released in North America to have his alternate form. So I guess you could sort of say he's the first player 2 alternate, although the pose is exactly the same, it's just a different color scheme. You can buy R.O.B in North America as both his Japan version from the Super Famicom and his North American one. Central to R.O.B.'s fighting style is a couple of powerful projectiles, and this time around you have a little bit of a charge meter, so you can actually see it charge up so that you know when you're ready to deploy another onslaught of attack. But it also helps your opponents know when they really need to watch out. And then the final entry on the Smash blog is another character highlight, this time for Captain Falcon. Captain Falcon is the poster child for speed. He's from the racing game F-Zero, a game that was a little bit ahead of its time. Groundbreaking graphics, super fast competitive futuristic racing, and killer music. But the thing is, in F-Zero, the characters never get out of their vehicles. To me, Captain Falcon is the best example of a character who is better known for his representation in Smash Bros. Than in his own franchise. Some people feel like we're long overdue for an F-Zero revival. I actually think it would be much better if they went the Smash Bros. Route with Mario Kart and turned it into Nintendo Kart and they started putting in other characters that have some sort of a racing background, like Captain Falcon, Fox, McCloud, Samus, Kirby. Put Diddy Kong back in there, the only character who's ever even had his own racing game other than Mario. But where Smash is concerned, another one of the cool things about Captain Falcon, a little piece of trivia you may or may not know, is that he was actually the original Kung Fu fighter from the beta that Sakurai had originally built, where the characters were not Nintendo fighters at that point. They were just different little guys, and they were working on the physics of this game where essentially you beat people up until they get enough damage where you knock them off the stage. It's kind of like sumo wrestling. You just fight until you push somebody out of bounds. And so one of those original models went on to become what we now know as Captain Falcon. And they gave him moves that are just totally made up. Falcon Punch, which he calls out in dramatic fashion with this epic fire falcon, phoenix-like, coming out of his fist. One of the only characters in the original game, if not the only character in the original game, to actually speak with intelligible words. Although not that intelligible, I can't remember if it was 64 or Melee, but when he goes, "Show me your moves," it sounded so much like "show me your boobs" that some of my friends were convinced that that's what he was saying. Of course, I knew he was not, because that's ridiculous. Contextually, I knew what he was saying, but at the same time, you know, the ear could be tricked, because it sounded a lot like that. And that sums up another Smash Ultimate Countdown. Nintendo's gotten pretty consistent about releasing these little blog updates. They generally tend to get the last one out sometime on Thursday night, so assuming they maintain the same schedule, I'm going to be aiming to get these countdowns out to you on Friday. I want to thank you for tuning in, for checking out the show, for joining me as we count down the days till December 7th when Smash Ultimate releases for the Nintendo Switch. I know one of these days, pretty soon, we're going to have some kind of massive news blowout. When that happens, you can bet I'll be here. I hope you'll join me. Subscribe to the channel to stay tapped into all the latest Smash Bros. And Nintendo news. Maybe you even want to hit that notification bell. Get these videos the moment they're released. Thank you, all my patrons out there. You know who you are. You mean the world to me. I appreciate all of you who like, share, and join the conversation in the comment section. Till next time, thanks for playing.